Howdy, peeps. Your friendly neighborhood Monomachos here, speaking to you on a lovely January 6th, I believe today is, which is on the eve of the Feast of the Theophany on the new calendar, or maybe today it is. I don't have my new calendar yet. Sorry about that. It's usually right there. And blessed Feast of the Nativity for those on the old calendar or the traditional calendar. So we wanted to get that out. Anyway, so here we are on the second edition of the Saturday Evening Post, which is the first one of the new year. So, anyways, you can tell we've got a lot of things to talk about, and I just want to kind of I've kind of highlighted them, but we'll just go down the list, shall we? Anyway, I trust the new year is going all right for everybody. I hope it's a blessed one. Anyway, so the Athonite rebuke. So here's what's going on. Uh, the monks of Mount Athos um, told, wrote a letter to Patriarch Bartholomew, their direct bishop, their abbot in charge, that they're very displeased. And the word on the street is, if you read between the lines, they want him to rescind his invitation to Archbishop Elpidio Forrest Lambrinakis, the Archbishop of the GOA here in America. They don't want him going there. And it's just a lot of missteps he's made along the way, and they just don't want to countenance them or to give the appearance that they approve of what he has done. Okay, that's plain to see. Um, there's been a lot of commentary on it. Now, the one that stands out is Ioannis earlier this morning said basically that Bartholomew is keeping quiet because he wants to see which way the wind blows. To be honest with you, I didn't think about that. I thought he was keeping quiet because, you know, he just he goes to ground whenever he does a misstep. But I think Ioannis hit it on the head. He wants to see which way the wind is going to blow, and so he'll just be quiet. And in the meantime, he'll talk about what a martyr he is. And then the new thing, of course, is that Constantinople is the mother church of all Christianity. You know, why anybody would want to join the Orthodox Church who's seriously considering joining the Orthodox Church when we have a prelate who's that historically ignorant and that theologically, um, how shall I put this charitably, unhinged, is going to think twice about it. Okay, so anyway, let's go further, shall we? More from the Branch Covidians. I just saw today that Francis Collins, a man who I must say Gail has pegged as a villain early on, I didn't. I did peg Fauci as a villain, but she pegged Francis Collins as a villain as well. He just was interviewed, and I just saw it this morning, and he admits that they made mistakes and that it's not like mistakes were made in the passive sense, but that they made mistakes. And I thought, well, that's kind of big of him, but it's kind of late in the day. What repercussions will there be? Will there be any consequences for they who made the mistakes? Unfortunately, not. But anyway, hopefully Netflix or some other streaming service will do a mini series on it, just like they did the one on Waco. Very good. Taylor, what is his name? Taylor Kushner. I can't remember what his name is. A good actor. He played David Koresh. Well, in the in this version of the Branch Covidians, they can have Anthony Fauci be the David Koresh character. The only difference is David Koresh died in a blaze of gunfire and smoke, whereas Fauci will live the rest of his days out, not atoning for his sins, although he should. Okay, what is a woman? Again, we come back to this. We don't know. Uh, Brendan, thanks to Brendan, he put out a nice, uh, nice comment which he got from what's going on in Europe, which basically says that trans women, in other words, men, fake chicks with a penis, can get into the boxing ring and beat up real women because we don't really know what a woman is. So those two diplomas that I have on my wall here from the University of Tulsa and the University of Oklahoma, one in pre-med, the other one in pharmacy, in which I was taught that women had two X chromosomes, whereas men had an X and a Y chromosome. I guess I could just toss them out the window. Okay, things are going hot and heavy here. We're looking at the end of the First Amendment, and as much as I'm gratified to see a complete mediocrity like Claudia Gay, I believe that's her name, be thrown out of office as president of Harvard, she should have never been in there in the first place. Her CV is full of plagiarism, and it's not even that full of. I think she's only got 13 peer-reviewed works, if that. Ordinarily, you have to be a published author. I mean, Theodore Roosevelt, who was not president of Harvard but did go to Harvard, he wrote like 38 books in his lifetime. Okay, the man was a true scholar. We don't have guys like that anymore. And anyway, so she was thrown out of Harvard. The pretext is because she's a mediocrity. The reality is because she she did not tamp down on all the so-called anti-Semitic speaking that was going on at Harvard, which was not anti-Semitic. It was free speech. It was people who were students who were in favor of Hamas, of the Palestinians, against the Israelis, whatever. I mean, I'm not on their side necessarily, but I do believe that people have a right to speak. Now, we'll go a little bit further down the rabbit hole here. The fact that people are shocked at how popular the Hamas insurgency was against Israel shouldn't be. The universities in America have been degraded so much and so completely that anything that smacks of patriarchy, European civilization, is Christianity, just what we call European culture, is castigated, and people are lambasted. And the Israelis, ironically enough, are viewed as white colonialists, whereas the Palestinians, again, ironically enough, are viewed as brown victims. It's laughable. However, our liberal elites for the past 50 years have created this Frankenstein's monster of anti-Americanism, anti-Christianity, anti-Christendom, that now it's just going on a rampage through the countryside and destroying everything in its wake, including them. Anyway, Mrs. Afendoulis, believe it or not, that's her name. That's her real name. She's married to a Greek American. Looking at her, I thought she played for the other team, but anyway, she doesn't. Decided to not be forthcoming as far as the billionaire donors are concerned. So she dodged the bullet initially, but then they found something in her past about her academic mediocrity and plagiarism that they were able to force her to resign, and resign she did. Okay, so now, interestingly enough, we go now to what I call the trifecta of Hellenic brilliance. I didn't come up with that, but it's perfect. Jim Jatras said that. He was interviewed by the Duran, and as you all know, Duran is Alexander Mercurius, Alexander Christoforou, both Greeks. One's a Greek Cypriot, raised in America, Christoforou. The other is an Anglo-Greek, Mercurius, hence his heavy British accent. And they have one of the top-rated uh, video logs in the English-speaking world. And if you get on that, you're set. I mean, now they are pro-Russian. There's no doubt about that, but they're not arch conservatives or anything like that. They are Orthodox Christians. Anyway, please check it out. Jim was just superb. He um, he was interviewed, and you'll actually learn more about American politics from Jim than you will from any other source, except for when they have Robert Barnes on. They have Robert Barnes on about once a month. Do check him out. His are longer. His videos are about 2 hours long. Jim's is just 30 minutes, but he pegs the American political scene, but he also pegs the geopolitical scene as well. So anyway, Jim, you keep up the good work. As I say in the thing here, you're always welcome back to our house. We had Jim over last month. He was passing through Tulsa on his way points west and south, and we had a wonderful time with him. He's a true Virginia gentleman. Anyway, okay, so also check out the latest from the Eurasian Century. Our friend Misha is going gangbusters on his video website, and especially take the time to click on Moscow, the Third Rome. You'll learn a lot. Okay, the Russians are losing. The Russians are losing. Okay, I mean, what else can we say? Um, Clearly, the West, the collective West, as Alex Christoforou likes to call it, is trying to find a way to extricate itself from the Ukrainian debacle. Uh, what's interesting is that Zaluzhny, the general in chief of the Ukrainian armed forces, has been hinting for a few months now that things are just not going well, and he's undermined Zelensky, the president, who is the commander in chief. It's not good. Um, in fact, the other day he went before the Rada and basically had a meltdown. And the parliamentarians, the Rada being the Ukrainian parliament, told him, you really need to step up to the plate here and push the Russians back. Let's take Crimea back. Where are we? And in his meltdown face, he told them, look, I don't have any more men. Maybe you all should suit up and go fight the Russians. It's interesting. I predicted a while back that Zaluzhny may be the key to ending this war. He could conceivably pull a Robert E. Lee, depending at right before Appomattox. May his memory be eternal. Uh, and go directly to the Russians and say, look, I'm here to sue for peace. What are your terms? And I've had the intuition that he's going to be the guy who does it. The other person who will step into this is Yulia Tymoshenko. Back in the early aughts, she was president of the Ukraine, a lovely woman. I believe she's still a member of the Rada. Don't quote me on that, but I believe she is. And I have heard from many sources that she still is a very powerful and influential figure within the Ukraine. If so, she also last week danced right up to the edge, if you know what I mean, about we need to rethink things, this whole thing. So it could be that she, as a former president, is, sending signals out to the Russians that they can negotiate with her. And she's not president, but just as the United States overthrew what was his name, the previous president of the Ukraine in 2014 with the Maidan coup. So could Russian forces overthrow um, Zelensky and replace him with Timoshenko? Anyway, it's a fluid situation. I think this this is that time. If I had to say a World War II analogy, after Stalingrad. After Stalingrad, it was clear that the Germans were going to lose. The question is, were they going to lose completely, or could they sue for peace? And they could sue for peace, and that's why there was this assassination attempt against Hitler by some of his generals and colonel, and I can't remember the one's name, but they made a movie of him with Tom Cruise. Forgive me. And because if they could remove Hitler and put Jodl in his place or Goering, then that would be the legitimate government, which could go to the Allies and sue for peace and still have some of Germans of, of of Germany's gains consolidated, and they'd still be in power. The Third Reich, the Nazi Party, would still be in power, or some lesser noxious version of it. It failed. Okay, but whenever one side, it's inevitable that one side is going to lose, you start seeing these little Byzantine games being played the by people who are fairly high up who don't want to be taken down. And that's what I think we're seeing right now with Zelensky and Timoshenko. Okay, so I'm being snarky. The Russians are not losing. The Russians are not losing. Okay, assorted comments. Well, as usual, we've got some great ones. I mentioned Brendan earlier, speaking about the What is a Woman? Also about the COVIDian crisis. I also talked about Ioannis, who gave, I think, the perfect uh, answer to Bartholomew's thunderous silence, shall we say. Petros, as usual, has commented, and I think in a very, very unique fashion. And then Joseph Lipper, I like you. You're a good guy. I think you're honest and all that, but and sincere, and I mean that, Joseph. But I just think we don't see eye to eye on this. I think you're trying to put too much, oh, how shall I say it, lipstick on a pig. Bartholomew is clearly, if he's not on his last legs, the bankruptcy of his position is apparent to all. And Joseph, I offer this as a comment. You know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll apologize, but that's kind of the way I see it. Costa, I respect what you say about uh, a lot of your commentary, but I think you're wrong about the Athenites. I think they are sincere. I think they are stepping up to the plate, and I do think that they're stalwart men in this regard and have been in the past. I wish they could have acted a little bit more expeditiously, but they didn't. Uh, anyway, so now we go forward to Dark Brandon Speaks. Well, yesterday, Dark Brandon, Joe Biden, in his alter ego, Dark Brandon, gave a speech at Valley Forge and talked about how terrible insurrection is. Okay, you know, well, that's how this country started. And Valley Forge was the absolute nadir of the American war effort to secede from the British Empire. So, interestingly enough, it was 32 minutes long. The only gaffe he made was a lie in which he said that Dr. Jill and he were had attended the funerals of several of the policemen at Capitol Hill. They did not. Still, he did not drool or fall up the stairs or anything like that. However, at the end, after Dr. Jill came up and gave him a hug, he went off script and he said, "I understand power." Wow. Okay, that's excuse me, it's overused. but that's kind of a Hitlerian, almost Mussolini-like statement, and it does not speak well for the future. Interestingly enough, through that entire speech, he almost said nothing about America and Valley Forge. It was totally about Trump. It was 32 minutes of Orange Man bad. I mean, Trump lives rent free in the heads of so many people, and it's sad because when somebody is that ensconced in somebody's mind, then that person who entertains these Trump derangement syndromes is not a healthy person. He certainly does not have a healthy mind, and he's been given over to dark passions. He reminds me of Pharaoh in the Exodus. You know, every time Moses came to him with reasonable requests, Pharaoh just got madder and madder and madder. You know, and then he destroyed himself and his army because instead of saying, "Okay, fine, leave," and be done with it. He follows them in a very Ahab-like fashion and becomes and dies. That's what happens to people who suffer from derangement syndromes. Okay, so Dark Brandon speaks. That's not a good thing. Finally, Mr. Trump goes to SCOTUS. Okay, yesterday the Supreme Court issued a writ of cert or certiorari. I think that's how you say it. And my legal commentators will correct me. Anyway, it is a writ, a piece of paper, as it were, in which they accept onto their docket a certain case. The case in this case is what the Supreme Court of Colorado did, in which they tried to remove Trump from the ballot. They did, but they didn't. It's a little bit complicated. Anyway, I I'm glad they did. I'd like to see which of the four. You have to have four justices accept that. By the way, it can't be three or two or one. But four did. I'd like to know which four did so. I don't know. Hopefully, we'll find out soon. Anyway, I have a feeling I know which four. It's probably the four most conservative ones, but we'll see. Anyway, the thing is, the idea that a man could be removed from the ballot is a specious one, and it's not really logical. It's dangerous to democratic principles. Uh, especially one who is not a criminal. Okay. True, Trump has 91 indictments coming against him in four different jurisdictions. All of them are specious, if not outright bogus. However, none of them are accusing him of insurrection, which that would be laughed out of court. So this should be a 9-0 slam dunk. In other words, Colorado, you guys are stupid. You don't know what you're doing. This is partisan hackiness at its worst. But I have a feeling that it'll be narrowly decided in Trump's favor. At least I hope so. You know, I'm thinking of 6-3, 7-2, because, and this is crucial, if it is allowed to stand, then you will see secretaries of state in red states and or Supreme Courts of red states removing Biden from the ballot. Therefore, we will have a constitutional crisis. So, grab the popcorn. It's going to be a wild and woolly ride. Anyway, let's go forward. Let's Pax. Let's try to love one another. Adios.